Capitol Hill to Wall Street. This is Politics and Profits with your host, Rick Amato.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Rick Amato. It's time for Politics and Profits.
We follow the trends on Capitol Hill that lead to the profits on Wall Street. We expose the hard facts of what your elected officials are doing when you're not looking. And we show you how you can profit from their politics. The American dream is alive and well, and you can be proud to call America your home. And now, it's Rick Amato.
Welcome back to the show. Justice in America, of course, is blind. Or at least in the overwhelming majority of cases, it's blind. And that's the way it should be. Obviously, we want it to be blind 100% of the time, but getting the overwhelming majority would be quite a accomplishment. Now, those times when it's not blind, we should be aware. The public should be aware. Join me this time, as she has previously, from Pittsburgh, is someone who has gone through some troubling experiences in a U.S. court system, particularly the family court system. She's author of the book, Crying Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Let's welcome from Pittsburgh, Maryann Petri. Maryann, good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
And Maryann, I want to cover this story with you because, quite honestly, it's not something which the media often covers. But it's important to everybody. Why don't you take a moment, you've been on the show before, but for our viewers who may not have seen your previous interview, take a moment and explain what it is that you experienced in the family court system, and then we'll go on to talk about your book.
Okay. What I experienced was the bias and collusion between a judge and attorney to get my children away from me, have them taken away based on false allegations via CPS. And what that led me to was eventually a victory in Superior Court. That was extremely helpful, but I turned around and wrote a book called Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough. And what I wrote was not just my story, but I wrote basically a handbook for parents going through this experience of family court, the corruption of it, how to be a pro se, how these psychologists explain parental alienation and how insidious it is, on top of the incentives of Title 4D.
Title 4D being?
That is for child support.
Okay, now, you said a collusion between a judge and the attorney. Take a moment.
Yes,
go ahead.
They had a working relationship that worked against me.
Was your husband friends with the judge?
The attorney was.
The attorney was.
And the problem was that my ex-husband's wife also worked in the courthouse.
Oh, man, that's right.
So there was a lot going on.
Yeah. Talk about, that's just kind of frightening, to hear that family members are on the other side of the legal equation are working in the courthouse and that would have influence. Shouldn't be that way. That's not blind justice. Now, you've written a book. You've written a couple books. The one you're referring to today that we want to talk about is Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Tell us about it.
Well, throughout the years of the family court system, I just couldn't sleep well. I would wake up at 2 a.m. with a couple lines in my head, and I would write them down, put them into poetry. Some of the poems are sarcastic regarding family court and due process. Some of the poems are very touching and emotional and serious. But as I said, some of them are kind of humorous and sarcastic.
Give us an example.
I wrote about a caseworker with Dr. Seuss hair.
And it was an outlet for you. I can see that. And that's great. What do you want your readers to get out of this?
I want them to know that this goes on. And as I said, some of the poems are very touching and emotional. And I understand what they're going through. And when they read them, they'll understand what I went through.
Oh, that's nice.
And even the ones that are sarcastic as well.
So it's certainly a nice, I'll use the word diversion. There's probably a better word for it.
Right.
A diversion, an outlet, or something to connect with for people who are going through what you went through. Because I can imagine it's pretty lonely out there when you experience this experience. I mean, who do you know? I don't think there's probably people in general probably don't know other people who to turn to on this other than a lawyer. So
That's true. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. People don't want to talk about family court. And I think it's time that people talk about it and do something to try to fix it. And
go ahead.
Writing these books hopefully will help generate some more thought on fixing the situation.
You seem like you're doing extremely well today. Am I right or wrong on that? I mean, when I talk to you, you look happy, you look relaxed, easygoing, as opposed to someone who may have been experienced, as opposed to the way you may have been previously when you were going through this.
Right. I found another outlet. I've been podcasting. I run the podcast called Slam the Gavel, which is available on Spotify, iHeart, Apple, and Anchor. But I have guests on that talk about family court.
And that helps you?
And that helps, right? We have, very good conversations, educational. We try to educate, and teach people, how to respond if CPS is at the door, things like that, how to be a pro se.
Yeah. All right. Well, Maryann Petri, it's not a topic that gets a lot of coverage in the media, as I mentioned earlier. It's an important topic for those that are experiencing what CPS or an unjust family court system. And that's why we brought you on, because we think it's important to get this out to the people. And hopefully no one goes through this. I mean, we don't want anyone to have to turn to this. But if they do go through this, they now are aware that they're not alone. These things have occurred. You're an example. And your book, Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth, it's an outlet for people. And that book can be purchased where?
Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Apple, along with my other book as well.
All right. All right, Maryann, as always, it's a pleasure having you with us. And we hope things continue to get better for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Broadcasting from Liberatory CPA Studios, back after this.
Politics and Profits with Rick Amato is brought to you by Liberatory Accounting, the IRS problem solvers. To find out how Liberatory Accounting can help you, call 877-6-SOLVER. That's 877-6-SOLVER.